fellow Malawians, I have come to warn you and prepare you for three imminent threats to our national security. First, the threat against our national IDs. Second, the threat against our democratic rights. And third, the threat against our readiness for coronavirus. First, as you may have heard, there are criminals going around the country telling people to surrender their national IDs or their national ID numbers in exchange for money and loans from government. I want you to know that the people doing this are criminals sent by crooks. The laws of Malawi do not allow anyone to take your national ID. If these criminals come to your area, you must report to your community leaders immediately. I therefore call on all community leaders, traditional authorities, parliamentarians, and councillors in the country to form community security teams that can respond swiftly and appropriately when this threat arrives in your areas. Do not wait for international donors to defend your birthright, nor should you wait for the police and the government to do it, because none of them have lifted a finger to stop this. If we as citizens who must organize ourselves to defend our birthright, it is we as citizens who must organize ourselves to defend our birthright. So from now on, everywhere these criminals arrive to offer us money in exchange for our national IDs, we must send them a clear message that our citizenship is not for sale. Secondly, as you already know, the Constitutional Court ruled that the Malawi Electoral Commission conducted the 2019 elections and declared Mr. Mutharika the winner against the law and against the people's will. But I want you to know that the fresh elections that the court ordered to be conducted within 150 days are already being manipulated. We cannot have a fair election if the same commissioners who ruined last year's elections conduct this year's fresh elections. That's why I have joined forces with my alliance partners to stop these commissioners from conducting another election in this country. But MEC is not the only institution of the state that is a threat against free and fair election. The National Registration Bureau, the National Intelligence Bureau, ADMARC, the High Court, and Malawi Defense Force have all been targeted by the DPP to infiltrate them and use them to rig the fresh elections and to stop our ability to stop it. I have even seen evidence from highly placed sources that elements within the State House plan to spy on telephone communications between citizens during the coming campaign. So we must all be vigilant and expose every criminal attempt to rig this election. Let me be very clear. No matter who Mr. Mutharika fires or hires, no matter what country he hires them from, we will not allow anyone to give him another stolen victory in this country. Never again. Mr. Mutharika is an interim president because the Constitutional Court and its ruling gave him presidency 150 days on February 3rd. So now he only has 90 days left. Lastly, as you have heard me say, in the last 3 weeks, we need to protect ourselves against the threat of coronavirus. This week, I visited a few health facilities to see if they are ready for such an outbreak. And the sad truth is that our health facilities are not ready. Although Mr. Mutharika has declared a state of disaster to prevent the spread of coronavirus, his government has done very little to prepare health facilities to conduct tests and to prevent transmissions. I have also learned with alarm that our borders continue to be crossed by people from corona-stricken countries without being tested. In fact, ever since the declaration of disaster and the setting up of 3 testing centers in the country, the health authorities have conducted less than 100 lab tests. Last week, government received 20,000 test kits, but conveniently neglected to provide storage rooms for the tests at district level. These lapses mean that as a country, we are hoping for the best, that this virus will not cross our borders, but we are ill prepared for the worst. If, God forbid, the virus enters Malawi, it is possible that Mr. Mutharika will order a lockdown. If such a time comes, he must explain to all Malawians 4 things. He will need to give reasons to justify the lockdown. He will need to guarantee Malawians that their right to elect a president will still be respected. He will need to explain how the court's order to hold a fresh election will be complied with. And he will need to tell poor Malawians how the government will support citizens with essential needs during the lockdown. Without these measures, a lockdown could itself become a lockdown. Without these measures, a lockdown could itself become a threat to the stability of the country. For now, I urge you to protect yourself against the virus by washing your hands with soap, staying home when you're sick, distancing yourself from others in crowded places, and avoid touching your face. Above all, do not be afraid. God is with us all. I'm Allan Mandindi.